Hello, Legion of the Lariat. It is I, stevezapf. This is I Still Call It a Lariat. We are doing our new show format, so I am joined with Mr. Showtime, Michael Wright. How you doing today, Mike?
Oh, you know me, Steven. I'm living the dream.
Not to beat a dead horse too much, but as we have been saying, the new show format is Showtime and I will be reviewing TNA and WWE stuff, and Hound and I will be reviewing NXT and AEW stuff. We will still be joining together for bonus content and, of course, previews and reviews.
And I won't promise that I won't drop in on the other show. You can't stop me, Steven. You can't stop me.
I wish I could sometimes.
No, you don't.
I don't. So, as always, we have our nonprofit organization, Tap Cancer Out. It helps with Alex's Lemonade Stand, American Brain Tumor Association, Isabella Santos Foundation, Little Pink Houses of Hope, Camp Sunshine, Christopher's Haven, the Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center at Johns Hopkins, CureCervicalCancer.org, First Descents, and Tom Coughlin's J Fund. As always, guys, please help out. The links will be in our description. They're on our social media accounts. Help out however you can. This is a great cause. As I said on the show with Hound, I don't know anyone who has not been touched by cancer in some way, shape, or form, whether it's someone you know, someone you love, even someone you might not like. No one wants this for them. But with that said, let's get down to some wrestling talk. Some wrestling. First things first, around the world, this week we will be getting the Vince McMahon docuseries on Netflix. Vince released a tweet this week about it, and I will read it for y'all just in case anyone has not heard it. So what it says is, I don't regret participating in this Netflix documentary. The producers had an opportunity to tell an objective story about my life and the incredible business I built, which were equally filled with excitement, drama, fun, and a fair amount of controversy and life lessons. Unfortunately, based on an early partial cut I've seen, this doc falls short and takes the predictable path of conflating the Mr. McMahon character with my true self, Vince. The title and promos alone make that evident. A lot has been represented or left out entirely in an effort to leave viewers intentionally confused. The producers use typical editing tricks with out of context footage and dated sound bites, etc., to distort the viewer's perception and support a deceptive narrative. In an attempt to further their misleading account, the producers use a lawsuit based on an affair I ended as evidence that I am, in fact, Mr. McMahon. I hope the viewer will keep an open mind and remember that there are two sides to every story. First off, he's not wrong. They do use a lot of footage out of context in varying documentaries like this, so I don't disagree with them in that. I also agree with them that there are always two sides to every story. At the same time, this sounds very much like Damage Control. I know we don't comment on any of Vince's outside dealings. That is not what we're here for. This is still kind of a very inside dealing, which is the only reason why I'm bringing up the tweet. It's about a show that is a documentary on a wrestling personality. What do you think, Showtime? You've been in the advertising and the sling business of the BS at times. You are the most professional person I know. What do you think of this tweet in general?
Malarkey. And that's a different person. That's not me. It's a whole different person. This tweet makes a lot of sense on him posting it. I'm really excited for the Netflix documentary. I'll make my own decisions on it. Thank you very much, Mr. McMahon. To be fair, he is Mr. McMahon. That's his name.
That is his name.
I know that he means the character and whatnot, but that's what happens in some of these things. These streaming platforms, any kind of production company, they're gonna do whatever they can to have the highest ratings. If anyone knows that, it's him. And so when he goes off and saying that they went for the juicier stuff, I'm not surprised. Like,
And he's got a lot of it. Like, not even talking about recent things. There's so much to bite onto for him.
I hope that this is entertaining. I don't get into the soap opera drama stuff, particularly of real life. When we get down to it, like I don't want to get into that stuff. I'm not a reality TV person. I like wrestling and the stuff that we watch because I know it's not reality, and it's fiction. Like I like drama,
Are you
movies, and
telling
stuff.
me that the drama of pro wrestling, where people go into a ring and body slam each other over small disagreements, is not realistic?
I'll take that over the catty BS that you get in the reality TV shows that's supposed to also be real, uh, any day of the week. But that's essentially what I want to see. I want to be entertained. I don't need someone just defacing somebody else, rightly or wrongly, whatever way you want to look at it. I want to look at the history of wrestling. I want to look at the history of this iconic promotion and the person who built it. A lot of people who build these mega empires turn out to be monsters. So I mean, you look at everything you kind of like, and sometimes there's a monster behind some of that good stuff. You just gotta take it with a grain of salt to a certain degree. Hope that everyone, you know, gets what comes to them, if they're guilty or not guilty. At the end of the day, I don't need people pulling in fallacies, cutting footage to make somebody sound like they said something that they didn't. Those things I really don't have much time for. So that's a long, complicated way of saying I'm excited to see this. I'm with you. It sounds a little bit like Damage Control, but Damage Control could be seen technically in three ways. One, he's wrong and trying to save face. Two, they lied, and they lied, and he's trying to get the point across. Or three, they're a tag team and that wrestles on Raw. So at the end of the day, that's the way I look at it. It doesn't really matter as long as it's entertaining.
I wasn't.
It took me a second to hook on to that
It took me. Yeah. Whew. It's listen. There's been a bit of recording and just work being put in this week, so I'm a little slow on my uptake right now. It looks like the NWA is leaving the CW app. I know I mentioned with Hound on the last episode. I was really hoping this wasn't going to happen. I understand why it is happening. I understand that WWE is not going to share a channel with somebody. That's not what they're going to do, even though it is NXT. They're not going to do it. But I was really, really hoping that the NWA was going to stay on the CW app. And a lot of my reason for this is through us doing this show, doing this podcast. You and I have discovered wrestling. You especially have discovered wrestling that you wouldn't normally have watched, or gotten back into wrestling you wouldn't normally have watched.
TNA,
like TNA, where my hope is that NXT going to the CW. It's obviously going to be the replay will obviously be on the app at some point. Well, you go to look for NXT and you realize there's other pro wrestling program on there. And you watch NWA all of a sudden, and you become a fan of NWA as well. Because, quite frankly, between you, me, Hound, we all kind of agree. Isn't that how we kind of found other wrestling that wasn't whatever the mainstream was? We are, in that sense, like, oh, hey, like, have you checked out blah, 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 blah? They're putting on a great show. Hey, Ring of Honor, when it first came out, was like, oh, this is something different that they're not doing everywhere else.
I look at wrestling as a pyramid scheme.
Absolutely.
You get into one person that you really like, and then they wrestle somebody, and you're like, oh, well, I like that guy as well. And then you go watch some of his stuff, and then so on and so forth. So that's actually the reason why I love the TNA and the NXT collaboration, because it really is bringing a lot of eyeballs to more than just Joe Hendry, even though he's the one that seems to be profiting the most out of this. Or I guess him and Jordan Grace. I think the two of them kind of really, really profited from this. But that at the end of the day is kind of what how wrestling kind of spirals. It always takes me back to the tapes that we used to get when we were on the independent circuit, where you would buy a tape because I absolutely loved this person. Like I'd get like a Flair of the Four Horsemen because I was so into those guys. or even the better example is the Mr. Perfect one, the Kurt Hennig one, actually, because it was the AWA time. And I didn't like I knew of Lawler at that point in time, but I didn't realize how awesome he was because I had never really seen anything outside of the Eddie Kaufman stuff. Because I just didn't watch the Memphis wrestling, and when he came up to WWE, I didn't really watch too much of his stuff there. But then I found that tape where it had some of his best matches against Hennig, and I was like, oh, well, this is exactly my style, and I'll watch everything I can of him. So that's why I call it a pyramid scheme. NWA, it has a decent amount to offer. I think people definitely need to give it a try. It needs to find its home. You're right. WWE is not going to share. They're already sharing enough, more than they've ever shared. And obviously, it's all whatever points to the business. I root for NWA because I want to see them come back because of the legacy that they have. Even though this isn't, I don't know if it does it count anymore as the original NWA.
I mean, it's still the NWA title. Like every time that it's kind of gone away, it's been its own thing. I feel bad that they keep trying. Everyone keeps trying to resurrect the NWA, and then they go off and they do their own thing. ECW did it originally. You know, the Shane Douglas throwing down the title, and then like 10 years later, TNA did it because originally, for those listeners and viewers that are not old enough to remember, TNA wrestling, before it was even Impact or before it was TNA, originally was NWA, Total Nonstop Action. And they fought over the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Hence, how our boy R-Truth is a 2-time world champion.
Ron the
Truth Killings. And like it feels like every time they try to like it, and even you want to get down to it, AEW did the same thing. AEW, or the executive vice presidents of AEW, built the original All Out show, or All In show, which had no real significance to AEW yet because it wasn't a thing. But they built it off of the back of an NWA World Championship match between Nick Aldis and Cody Rhodes. They filled a 10,000-seat arena off of the back of that. Fast forward a couple months, and we have AEW. Again, this was another thing that piggybacked off of the NWA that then didn't use the NWA. And I feel bad. I feel like this keeps being the thing. And it's ran by, of all people, Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins.
Who also used to run TNA, too.
TNA for a bit. He is an actual wrestling fan. Like, he's a wrestling guy. So for all the talk that it's ran by a rock star, no, it's ran by a wrestling guy. He's smart enough. I've heard this from different interviews. He's one of those guys who's smart enough to know what he doesn't know. And he leans on wrestling minds. He just doesn't have. He's not a billionaire, and he's not a conglomeration. He's not an openly traded company. He can't bring NWA to the masses the way he's probably less on the production quality than we always say TNA is. And it's, again, like you said, the history of the NWA letters. Those letters mean something to guys like us.
Yeah, but the thing about the NWA in its own right, I really do think that I wish they would go with the territory mentality again. Like go line with more than, because I know they have a couple, but go out there and try to align with everybody. What's Scott's promotion that he's building up in Canada? Maple Leaf
Pro.
Align with them. Connect with Al Snow and do something with OVW because they're
I think they are connected with OVW.
Are they? And I'm not the most educated in this spot, but like do it to a situation and even like lean back into the AEW side of things where the NWA World Champion gets TV time across
everything
everywhere, like and go into like. WWE owes them for taking them apart. Give them a little bit of a TV time there. Give it a little bit over to TNA and really have some of these working relationships with some of the the spotlights and then start being that governing body that they once were. Because I think that's where their power was, and they don't have it anymore because they don't have a champion that goes and tours the way
everywhere.
the way it could
and
be
even
done.
when they did, it wasn't as televised or as known, because like Aldis did that. Aldis went all over. That's why he started calling himself the national treasure, because he was everywhere. He was.
Yeah.
There was a point where he said he defended like the title in Japan on Friday, and then in like Georgia on Saturday.
Yeah, but this is the future now, Stephen. Like you don't need TV to get exposure.
No,
you just
not
need
at
a
all.
decent video equipment, and just post all that shit online. Like have it where people are waiting for that match, and make it more about the champion than everything else, because that was what drew people. Was today the NWA World Champion is coming. It's coming to Texas. They had their own titles and stuff down there, but when Ric Flair came down there to wrestle
there was
the
only
Von
one
Erichs,
world champion.
Like there's only one world champion, and like you could do it that way. It's just going to take time and energy and money, and it's something that you could collaborate with some of the people who have those things to build up. That'd be, hey Billy, if you're listening, come talk to us. We'll make you a name that people know.
We got some ideas. I mean, the other side of that was I was always a little shocked, and I guess not as shocked because it's not as big of a group, obviously. But why didn't AEW just when they couldn't have a working relationship with TNA, maybe they should have gone after the NWA and done like a working relationship with them. You could have had the NWA World Champion on there, and I mean, you've already got 3 other World Champions on there, so what's one more at this point?
This one, like, this is a little different because, like, even ROH feels like they're minor league at this point in time, the same as NXT
NWA is still a world champion.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that one is its own entity. It's kind of, it feels like a half step at this point in time rather than a full step. Like where ROH is a full step down, NWA would be like a mid step down, like a half step down, just because they don't have the notoriety and all that. But there's always that legacy, and you need to capitalize on it before everyone forgets. like even us, like we're old souls in this situation. Like I don't remember really much of the NWA when in its heyday. I remember like the very, very end of it before it became before it really turned into WCW. It went that route, and I think I believe I remember more than I actually do because I've watched a bunch of that stuff.
See, I think that's what it is I've watched more of it than I remember necessarily. I remember because I have watched it, but the problem is, and this is something where I feel like you and I share this little bit of kinship in how we came up in the wrestling business as far as being kids who loved wrestling. Where we were poor kids from the Northeast, I didn't have cable. You know what that means in the Northeast for those of you with our friends of the southern part of America? We didn't get Turner networks. If you didn't have cable, you didn't get Turner, which means you didn't see the NWA or WCW. So I was what, 10, 11 years old before the first time I saw either version of the Crockett promotion, and that was 1992, and they had fully gone WCW at that point. So
I think I always had cable. I think I always had access to that. So I may have watched it when I was younger. But the sentiment still stays true that like you watch something so many times you just assumed you watched it live. It's kind of the way I look at that.
Exactly. Moving on from NWA, part of AEW's possible television deal that we keep going over and going and over and going over until it gets finalized and they tell us exactly what it is. I know you and I had spoken about them maybe going to Fox. It looks like if they're going to go to anywhere, it's going to be FS1. Again, until everything is finalized, we don't know what this deal says. And even still, once it is finalized, we still don't fully know what it's going to be because Tony Khan and AEW doesn't actually have to share that information with us. That's the thing about it not being an openly traded company. They don't have to tell us stuff. They can tell us that they're getting $1 billion contract out of the deal, and we're kind of stuck believing them, unless otherwise told.
I'd comment, but Hound had me sign an NDA to not speak about AEW on his terms, so I'm contractually not allowed to speak. I'm just kidding. Any version of AEW in
It's
another
just all
spot,
out.
I think, yeah, just all out. I swear that wasn't it. We planned that ahead of time. The AEW
just couldn't have been worse or better.
The AEW expanding its footprint is beneficial to them. Obviously, being on Fox is substantially better than being on FS1. Being on broadcast is always better than being on cable because you just have a bigger reach. But at the end of the day, we'll see what they come out with. I've heard some weird names for whatever their other show is. I think this is the death of Rampage, though. Rampage, that's the third one.
I have heard that there is going to be no more Rampage, which is also why, that's part of the reason why on the other show we don't even cover Rampage, because nothing really happens over there.
Mm-hmm. Well, we still cover SmackDown, and I'm still not convinced anything happens there at this point in time.
At least something happens. The world champion is on SmackDown, at least.
Yeah.
I at least get storyline movement on SmackDown.
We'll get there in a minute.
Fair enough. All right, let's talk about the show. This is the first time we're actually covering a full show of TNA. I said this with Hound. This was the first time that we were covering NXT fully on the show. This is the first time we're actually fully covering an episode of TNA Impact. We've never really done this, so we're history making right now, guys. Legion, you're here for history.
Yeah, and probably, honestly, I the more I watch TNA, the more it seems like it kind of has the best of all worlds. The thing that we keep begging for, they are trying to at least do. I just wish they would up their production quality. That's their one dig.
It really is, but everything else about them, they we talked about before the show, they packed a lot of stuff into this 2-hour program, and it didn't feel like I treaded through mud. Like, it wasn't like wading through mud to get through this program. There was a lot going on, and it moved at the right pace where I was into what they did.
I would really like to see WWE send down some A talent to really get some eyes on here. Like, I would love to see Drew McIntyre come down here with his history with TNA,
or even like an AJ Styles at this point. Someone who's maybe
they have no idea. They have no idea what to do with it anyway.
That's what I'm saying. So, especially like someone like him, where he's probably not going to be anywhere near a title anytime soon. You send him down to TNA for a little bit just to give him a shot in the arm. That'd be huge.
Not just that, but he's just got that history, that legacy.
Well, that's the thing. He has the history there. He's got the history there, and he's got the star power. You put him in there, and like I said, it's a shot in the arm for all the right reasons.
Mm-hmm. So, like, that's what I like to see. Like send some talent, kind of like how they do with NXT when you see like CM Punk or Randy Orton show up on NXT. Yeah, just because they're trying to drive ratings there. Send some love. They're sending you their top talent with Joe Hendry and Jordan Grace.
That is true. Just send them somebody. Send them a mid-carder. Send them Jimmy Uso.
Uso. He'll still lose in the mid event, but we'll get to other things later.
No, Jimmy.
I'm not ready.
Send them Jimmy.
Yeah, yes. get Jimmy in there.
Get Jimmy.
You gotta pray for. Are you still praying for Jimmy?
So, all right. I don't want to give out too many of my sources on this one, but I saw this pray for Jimmy thing. The problem with this is this pray for Jimmy thing came out at the same time that someone I know was Jimmy's bartender. And I was like, did he seem healthy? Because it was like the same time. She's like, oh yeah, he seemed great. He was a really nice guy. And like, he took pictures with people and stuff like that. So the whole pray for Jimmy thing, I don't know what this is about.
Did he just have a hangover? Did too many people buy him drinks?
Maybe. I mean, it was a beer bar. It's a brewery. So it's not even like it was booze, like liquor.
Hey, those heavy IPAs, they'll get you.
Maybe like I said, person I spoke to said that he was great, just at a bar. I don't know. It's not our place to make assumptions at this point. It's totally our place to make assumptions. This is something we make assumptions
in this
about.
situation. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And I
we
think
make judgments and assumptions.
That's just Rikishi trying to get people to pay attention to his son again.
All right, so back to TNA. Now that we're here, we get the opening of the show, and we get Alicia Edwards and Tasha Steelz, and they come out trying to jump Masha Slamovich, and Jordan Grace comes out, makes the initial save, and then the entirety, most of the system comes out to now really, really surround them, and the Hardys come out to make the ultimate save. We get part of this is a comedy segment with Santino. I love him.
Oh, wait a minute. Before you move off, sorry, I didn't think you were going to switch so quickly. I think this is them setting up Alicia Edwards and Jordan Grace.
I do too. So it's actually a little bit more them setting up Masha Slamovich and Jordan Grace.
Even though she came down for the save?
We'll get a little bit more to that when we get into this backstage Hardy's Jordan Masha thing that comes a few segments later. But so the comedy segment with Santino and Ariana Grace, who is his daughter, which I love this. The way they played off of each other, like they had that, like he's like, "Oh, you remind me of somebody that I love in this business. Oh, that's all right, me." And she kind of rolled her eyes and was like, "No, I don't want that." This
Who doesn't want Santino?
Everyone love Santino, except for Jim Cornette. This leads to them making a match for a 6-person tag match for the main event, which is going to be Masha and the Hardys versus the System and Tasha. Kind of rhymes, but kind of doesn't. And not at all. And they tell Jordan Grace that she is going to be in a tag team match the following week with a surprise guest from NXT. We don't know who that's going to be. We're going to see who it is. They won't go more into it. But apparently Ariana Grace is their liaison to NXT. She is an NXT superstar. All around, again, it's a solid opening to the show. We get a little bit of fire. We get a little bit of fight. All of this is very cool. It's a nice start to a wrestling show. It's a wrestling show. And they treat it like it's a wrestling show. Let's go with that.
Mm-hmm.
The next segment we get immediately afterwards is a backstage segment with Eric Young and Josh Alexander. Alexander coming off of his loss to Joe Hendry. And Eric Young kind of gives him the come to Jesus talk. I see what you're doing. I've been down this dark road you've been down. It's not easy to come back from. Maybe you should turn it around a little bit. And he tries and really tries to impart the wisdom. There's no fighting. No one gets nose to nose with each other, really. It's two men having a conversation with each other. A serious man-to-man conversation between competitors. And again, we're not insulting anyone's intelligence here. And I know you love you some Eric Young, and I love me some Josh Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
So even if this does turn into something where they're going to fight, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised here, but they've done a decent amount of tagging, and like they've never turned on each other. So like there was like Josh Alexander's turn was on Joe Hendry. So Eric Young and Josh Alexander have no reason to hate each other, and that's how I really like the way that this was set up, because I hate it when the minute someone goes heel, it's always
They're not friends anymore.
Even though we have history forever, we can't talk anymore because we're not aligned the same way. It's that's not how the real world works. Until Josh Alexander says, "Hey, I'm not your student. Shut your mouth, or I'll shut it for you." That's when that heat starts to be built, and then you have to make that decision. So I dig that.
I agree with that. And again, they can build this piece by piece how they're doing it, if they are going to go that route, or if they realize that kind of the heel turn for Josh Alexander wasn't getting the traction that they were hoping for, and
was completely out of nowhere.
And it was completely out of nowhere. We go right from that to a backstage segment with the Hardys, Jordan, and Masha. And in this is where I was talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan says that all those times that she was doing the open challenge, she was really hoping Masha Slamovich was going to answer because she wanted to have that. We talk about it a lot. The Battle of the Bulls type of thing. Sometimes getting two athletic big men is great, but these are two specimen women, and we don't get to see it too often. And I wouldn't mind seeing this, especially they're two specimen women who can go.
So this is I let you get to this spot before I responded that I'm with. They are definitely setting this match up. I bet you that Alicia is the one that takes the title off of Jordan. That's kind of more what I was leaning towards, because I could see Jordan getting that like one more big win over Masha here, and then have Alicia in the slimiest of ways bring that gold home to the system, and then
the system works.
Because the system works, and then you have a heel champion there when you had to face for as long as you have. You can't. I feel like you can't just replace Jordan with Masha. It's just almost like, oh, here it's going. Was it going from China to Asia? Is that the
that was one of them?
That was someone tried to do that. And
that was the dying days of WCW.
I get it. But that in my mind is a mistake, is going that route. But like having Jordan Grace be able to check off the matches she hasn't had yet, and just like, okay, let's milk Jordan Grace for as much as we can have her left, because I think it's already been reported that she's going to be getting out of her deal early so she can go over to NXT. So she's got to do the business. She's got to drop that belt to somebody. I think that somebody should be Alicia Edwards at this point in time, out of who we've talked about.
I think so.
I would also like to see Ash by Elegance get it. So
I would go Alicia Edwards just to. Again, it depends on health reasons. If she's really hurt, which it seems like she really is, even though like now they're using it as a bit of a work, I could see her not getting the title just for that reason. If that is the case, I could see them trying to do something with Tasha Steelz. Like, hey, like this is our mini version of the system, especially like Masha Slamovich was never part of the system. That was always our big knock on that tag team. You're muted.
It was always so clear too that she wasn't part of the group.
No.
And I just I never got that. Like, all right, like let her in, even if you're gonna punt her out later and double cross her.
She's the other half of the tag team titles.
But she's just like, all right, I'm on team, yay.
Yeah, it was. I actually never realized like how they would say it, but it's Militia was their tag team name. And I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
I'm in for that. Like, I like little, you know me, I like little plays on words like that. Speaking of tag team wrestling, though, we get a great tag team match next. We get First Class, which is representing them is Casey Navarro, who I met him years and years and years ago when he was like 30 pounds lighter and looked like he was, 10. And AJ Francis, who I have not met yet, but I'm sure at some point I will at this point, the way things are going, versus a team called Sinner and Saint, who I've never seen before. I really liked them, though. They were this straight cut. They reminded me of, for older wrestling fans, Phil Furness and Doug LaFon. For kind of newer wrestling fans, they reminded me of who was it? They were the NXT Tag Team Champions for a little bit. I can't even remember who it was, but they're just straight wrestlers, and they look like just straight wrestlers. And they went in there and they had like this intensity, and like the dynamic and the between the two of, okay, we have just really, really just normal wrestling guys. Like, these are guys who are great wrestlers versus First Class, who are money and rap and all that stuff. It was really cool to see that. And the match itself was great. It was, again, this is the best tag team division in pro wrestling as far as I'm concerned. At least on
Agreed.
televised pro wrestling. From right there, we get a Mike Santana promo. Mike Santana promo to preview their Texas death match later between him and JDC. That's Johnny Dango Curtis, for those of you not in the know. Formerly the Fandango. This was a really good promo. Again, I like the stuff that Mike Santana is doing. It was serious. It was to the point. They made it seem like he's the guy from the streets, and he's had to raise himself up past that. But don't be surprised if he can fall back into that pretty quickly. And they went right into a segment with Mike Bailey, talking about him regaining his title, how he always has to be on top of his game because the X Division Championship is so hard to hold on to, which I don't disagree with. Showtime, you and I have talked about this, how we like that he's a fighting champion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they said he's in I believe he's in another multi-man match next week again. So he's doing the rounds and he's getting the reps in. Mike Bailey's one of those guys that I could see one of the two big promotions possibly scooping him up at some point.
Yeah, that's a problem with TNA in general, is that since they are their premier league and working with everybody, I feel like they're almost like the training ground outside of the Ring of Honor or outside of the NXT. TNA is going to have someone that is better than some of the other like minor leagues. I don't want to call them minor leagues. I feel like that's disrespectful because NXT it's just younger talent.
Some of the other brands, the non-independents, basically. And a lot of this is, and I fully believe this, part of the NXT TNA working agreement is as much to get some of these people reps in front of a camera and in front of a crowd, and they don't have the time to do it. So these are people that they probably do want to push down the line or see if they're ready to be pushed down the line and see what they can deliver in front of, a couple thousand people and a camera, because that's important. And also people in TNA is a little bit more adept for pivoting and improv stuff as far as in-ring work goes. Like they're wrestlers. They work an actual old school wrestling style in that sense. They can probably pivot a little bit, change direction on the dime, so to speak. Let's see. Excuse me. We have Matt Cardona versus Rhino, who Showtime asked me if that was Rhino before this. It is.
Yeah, it just cracks me up that that Rhino's back after all these years. Like no one else is still wrestling from that time when he was the guy in ECW. But here we are. Here's Rhino.
And he's still going at the same speed. It's weird.
Yeah.
So we get
with Matt Cardona.
with Matt Cardona. Which just proves, and I mean this with total respect, and I'm not saying this as a knock on him. This is actually a compliment. Matt Cardona will go and try to make money with anybody.
It's fair.
And I mean that fully respectfully, because good for you, dude. Like, make your money, make your bag, as the kids say. This match ended in a DQ, and Cardona started beating up on Rhino, and as he was really about to take him out with a chair, PCO comes out and makes the save. I'm not a huge PCO fan, just because it's a lot of the stuff that I'm not normally into. I like that I do I appreciate that other people do like him though, and that he's put in time. And there was a point where PCO was like the biggest star in Canada at one point. And like, so like when WWE, when he was in WWE at one point and they would go into Canada, the WWE champion wasn't necessarily the draw for Quebec or the Montreal area. It was PCO back then. So he would actually get them in with different promoters and stuff like that to make sure they had promotions and radio spots and things like that. So I appreciate what PCO has done for the business. Just because he's not my cup of tea doesn't mean that I don't respect what he does and how he does it. It's just not my normal thing.
He's just been around forever.
He's been around forever. We get a Knockouts tag team title match with Spitfire and versus Gray and Bright from NXT. This was another spot that Ariana Grace came out, and again, being the liaison, brings them out. I believe it's Gray is a former NCAA women's wrestler. So they really played on that, but she also took a lot of the sympathy in this. You could, how I said, this is the point where some of these wrestlers are getting reps in at TNA. This was one of those matches. You've got Spitfire, who are very, very experienced pro wrestlers, and they put them in there with them, and they definitely molded them and guided them. And like, hey, we do this for this reason. We don't do this for this reason. Mm-hmm. And I'm cool with that. I'm totally okay with that type of thing for it. Speaking of your friend Ash by Elegance, we got a backstage with her manager, her concierge. And I don't know who the other person is, and I'm so sorry. They don't actually announce her in this. But it looks like this is supposed to be a third person in their little stable that they're going to be building up. And basically Ash by Elegance is going to be her Yoda, her fashion Yoda, if you will. But again, a lot of this was very, very quick segments. I know it seems like we're flying through it a little bit, but it's because the show itself flew through some of this stuff a little bit. They kind of gave you just enough to whet your appetite with some of this stuff. And finally, we get JDC versus Mike Santana in a Texas Death Match. I want to point out that this Texas Death Match was under actual Texas Death Match rules, not whatever Texas Death Match rules some of the bigger promotions have been throwing out there. This is a matter where it is an anything goes match, and it is a Falls Count Anywhere's match, and it is a last man standing match. But an actual Texas Death Match, you have to make a pinfall or submission, and then whoever got the pinfall or whoever was pinned has to stay down for a 10 count. So you really need to keep this person down. Mike Santana won this in a great clean win. I thought they did a good match. I know, Showtime, you and I have been a little bit against the ultra violence lately for the last few weeks. Hound and I actually said it on the other program that we kind of wish that AEW would stay away from it a little bit more for the next few weeks, and they did not. I was not opposed to this match. This match was done well. It was not, everything they did was not overly done. No one got tased. There was no near deaths. It was a violent wrestling match. And I see nothing wrong with something like that. And like I said, the ending of the match was clean. It was Santana coming off the top of the rampway with just a regular splash, threw a table, made the pin. JDC stays down. Showtime, like I said, this is kind of the way I want these matches to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got anything you want to?
These things really pop hard when you add them in at the right time and do it to the right level. There is very much a place for this. Even if you go back to the old school, like the Attitude Era, WWE or WWF at the time, I guess you'd say, like when you had the Hardcore Championship and you had those matches, like they stood out because that's where that type of wrestling had its place. And I've seen some of those. They've done a really good job in TNA in general on stipulation matches and like finding ways to sprinkle them in and bring them to the forefront and do them relatively well. Some of them haven't hit fantastically, but this one was overall really good. And then I really like the way they've been handling Mike Santana as he's come back over the last couple of months, and I think he's someone that they're grooming up to be like a real kind of main event competitor.
I could see him being in the mix, especially after this match. You get Moose attacking him and kind of calling him out a little bit. Again, anytime you work with Moose in TNA, that's a big deal. So
yeah, and if he can get one over on Moose, it propels him to the top of the card.
That puts him on the short list, right? Like if he gets the better of a program with Moose, then you're looking at with him in the conversation with the Joe Hendrys, the Frankie Kazarians, the Nick Nemeths, the Josh Alexanders. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if after Moose, he maybe does something with Josh Alexander, and that really puts him into that's like the last one. That's the gatekeeper spot. We get a vignette for Lai Ying Li, formerly known as Xia Li. I honestly think this is the perfect spot for the artist formerly known as Xia Li. She's a really good female professional wrestler. I think this is one of those places, TNA is one of those places where they can utilize her, and even the quote unquote language barrier doesn't hurt her as much here. And finally, what we've all really been waiting for, we get Joe Hendry. I have it written here. Joe Hendry is so over. This is not just a TNA or NXT thing. People love Joe Hendry. And the fact that Joe Hendry gets interrupted by Frankie Kazarian just proves what level Joe Hendry is at. Like we're putting him in there for real.
He's the hometown hero.
He's about as homegrown as you get at TNA right now. Frankie and Hendry start arguing over who should get the title match, and Nick Nemeth comes out and basically kind of gives Hendry his props and tells Kazarian he's a piece of crap.
Like you do.
I am not going to lie. I am interested in seeing Nick Nemeth wrestle either one of these guys.
Yeah.
There's not a wrong answer here.
They've been kind of building up this Kaz versus Hendry feud. Like they were both in TNA. They were both in NXT during that battle royal. They keep kind of circling around each other. So I'm pretty excited to see these two go at it, and then whoever comes out of it goes and tries to take down Nick Nemeth. I'm not sure if they're ready to take the belt off of Nemeth yet, but it's weird because I would like to see both of these gentlemen be champions. So I'm really intrigued on how it goes. If anyone will kind of keep you guessing, it's TNA. If we did our predictions for the pay-per-views with TNA, like we do some of the other ones, I feel like our scores would be substantially lower.
We would have very bad scores.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I would be closer or further away from you at this point.
It could be either. Probably further away.
We get Santino coming out, and he's the one who makes the match for next week between Kazarian and Hendry. The winner gets Nick Nemeth at Bound for Glory, which is Bound for Glory is TNA's biggest pay-per-view of the year. Santino comes out. When he does come out, I love this line. He's like, "I'm going to keep this short and succulent." Everything Santino does, Jean Shana.
Love it.
Love it. Everything was like that.
Can you bring the snake back?
He's gonna bring the Cobra back. He calls Eddie Edwards Eduardo Edwards during this show. Everything Santino's doing in this just pops me. We end the show with the 6-person tag match, the Hardys and Masha versus Tasha and the System. This match is kind of exactly what I thought it would be. It was a good match. Unfortunately, the Hardys, there's no doubt about it. They're not a little closer to the end. They're at the end.
They're on their final.
They're on their final tour. I don't know how long their final tour is going to last, but they're Billy Joel playing Madison Square Garden right now. But we get Hardys and Masha going over on this one. Like I said, it was a good match. We got some nice little fun spots during it, like ABC coming out and removing Alicia Edwards because the ref is throwing her out, and she's like, I'm not going. And ABC comes over and hooks her by her arms because she's all superhero posed and just lift her up and walk her up the ramp. And I thought I popped a little bit for that one too. Like you said, man, TNA, Legion, if you're not watching TNA, I don't know why you're not watching TNA. They put on one show a week. It's one of the easiest ones to get a hold of. And if you're paying for other streaming services, honestly, you could probably get rid of one of them and get TNA Plus, and it's fully worth it because you get most of their pay-per-views and you get all of their Impact episodes. Plus, you get their entire back catalog, which you want to go back and watch some cool stuff. Go back and watch Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles, and Samoa Joe, and you'll be happy. You'll be happy that I recommended this. You'll thank me later. In fact, my email will be down here in the description below. You can thank me for recommending this.
Don't do it. Don't inflate his ego.
I need someone to, man. You don't at all.
I won't do it.
He won't do it. All right, so that was TNA. Now on to the biggest promotion in the world. First off, we have for WWE Friday Night SmackDown. Now, for SmackDown, the only thing that we're going to go out of order with is I want to talk about the most important thing first on this one, and that is the Cody Roman segment at Georgia Tech. I thought this was awesome. I thought this was very well done. I know that on Busted Open, they had mentioned, or Bully Ray had specifically mentioned the reason why they didn't do it in front of a crowd was they didn't want the crowd to sway the reaction of how they did the video, which I think that's accurate. That was really smart, and this was cool because Bad Blood is going to be in Atlanta. We get Cody, who is a Georgia boy, and we get Roman, who played football for Georgia Tech. So the fact that this seemed like home field for both of them was really, really cool. I like how they did it. I like how they spoke to each other. I like Roman saying that you're in my way. And then when Cody gets out of his way, he goes, you're in my way in life.
Yeah, this promo was really well done. I miss some of Roman's segments when he doesn't make me wait 20 minutes for him to walk down and start talking. But once he started talking, it was very entertaining. I really liked the way that he kind of put it out there that he kind of has nothing now. It is a quick departure considering that like yesterday he had everything. And now he has nothing. It's a little quick for me in that route. I don't feel bad for Roman Reigns.
No, he has
don't
nothing.
Try to
but
get
he
me
still
to
pulled up
feel
in
bad
7
for
cars.
you. Come on, man. You've been a bad man for a long time. You're not getting my sympathy that easily. But he is right. Cody has everything to lose at this point in time, and part of it, I still am convinced that Roman is like it's weird. At least maybe I want Roman to double cross Cody, not necessarily to go with the bloodline, but to be like they fight the bloodline at Bad Blood, and then he double crosses Cody, and be like, yo man, I'm not on your team either.
Yeah, like I don't like you.
That's on you. Like this is family. I'm gonna take care of that business. You really don't have a place here. It's time for you to see your way out.
I saw a rumor too. This was like a rumor meme about when Cody eventually goes heel, because everyone's just assuming it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying it will or it won't, but how epic would it be if Cody's heel turn involved? Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman.
I would like to see that, but I don't think you necessarily need that, and that doesn't give me the heel turn vibes, because like I want Cody Rhodes to go full Homelander. Like that's the heel I want.
I want him like we'll talk about it later. They've been teasing Owens going heel for a while now. I would love to find out that after everything, it's actually Cody that's going to go heel.
Oh, that would be dope. Like that's a good way to if subvert expectations.
If Cody went heel on Owens instead of vice versa,
yeah.
Oh, it'd be so good. They're not going to do it because then Cody would have to stop crying. But we get LA Knight gets a win over Andrade, retaining the U.S. title. A lot of secondary title matches this week. We got a U.S. title match on Raw. We get an IC title match that they've been building up. Andrade raised LA Knight's hand and shook it, kind of forced it upon him, as we said.
LA Knight does not like to play well with others. He seemed like he was willing to give him a fist pump, but didn't want to shake his hand.
No, he doesn't seem like much of like a hugger.
But hugs are free.
Hugs are free, not drugs. Drugs cost money. We get Apollo Crews once again embarrassing Giovanni Vici, if you will. This just, I mean, for all the work that they did with his vignettes and stuff like that, I don't know if the vignettes were supposed to be so that they could just keep doing this. I don't know if people just weren't reacting to the vignettes. If they decided, hey, like, they're not really getting the traction that we want, so we're gonna keep you on, but we're gonna make you kind of a comedy wrestler right now.
Yeah, I don't understand why he's getting so jobbed out. I get why he was kicked out of Imperium and kind of moved him away so he can kind of come back fresh, but they brought him back just to job him at this point in time. I don't know. It's losing a little bit for me. I'm still disappointed that Imperium never really had that long tag team run. Like with the titles, I thought that would have been cool to go along with the IC title that Gunther was carrying.
I think that would have been really cool, especially since the entirety of the time that like Gunther was the IC champion, it really felt like Imperium were just being stooged out.
Yeah, they were just there.
They were just losing all the time. And at this point, with what they're doing with Vici, honestly, send them back down to NXT.
Yeah,
because this is not firing. Kind of the biggest news, aside from anything Cody and Roman related, is Bayley and Naomi win their match against Nia and Tiffany, and Bayley and Naomi both get the pin on Nia, which means we need to figure out who the number one contender is going to be. We get a segment afterwards with Nick Aldis and Bayley and Naomi saying that we need a number one contender and someone, we need someone that deserves it. So they're going to have a match next week, which seems like they could have just done this to begin with to see who. Like if they're not going to make it a three-way match, they should have just had the match.
Like why did Nia need to take a double pin?
It seems like, again, it's a hat on a hat. It's something
hat on a hat.
Hat on a hat. I will say this. And mainly because as much as we have been fans of Bayley. We have not been fans of Bayley's booking and how they promote Bayley. I think they're turning Bayley heel again.
I mean, it probably makes sense. She's a better heel than she is face at this point in time. Like, she was a good baby face once upon a time.
Or they're turning one of them heel, is what it very much feels like. Because even that segment with Aldis, they're like, one of you, we need, there needs to be one number one contender. And Bayley jumps in and goes, yeah, me. That's kind of a heel thing.
It is, but it's also showing her competitive spirit, I think. So, like, and that's what she's kind of going for.
Which is also why I think if Naomi is the one that goes heel, it would subvert expectations. So Kevin Owens and DIY get into a brawl with the Bloodline, which is supposed to lead to the main event. And as they're about to go out for the main event, Owens is out there and DIY has been beaten to bloody hell. Who is going to help him? Well, who else would it be but the Street Profits?
Why not?
Why not? Just why not? Let's just put a bunch of people together to let Jacob Fatu beat the crap out of.
That's literally it. They're just cannon fodder.
Just let's let Jacob Fatu beat the crap out of everybody. By the way, I think this is one of the things Hound misses the most is telling us how scared of Jacob Fatu he is. At the end of the match, the heels are about to really beat up on Kevin Owens. Cody comes in and makes a save with a chair. Owens picks up the chair and it looks like a tease, like he's about to hit him with the chair. He's not going to hit him with the chair. They shake hands.
Will they, won't they?
I'm sticking with my original statement on this one. If I'm holding the pencil, I have Cody go heel on Owens.
I just don't know why you need to tease it right now. I know they kind of did the thing where Owens turns on people or whatever, but you don't need him heel today. And it's almost like it's just a tease. Where I don't think either of them are gonna go heel anytime soon because you still have the Bloodline to deal with. It's like they're the never-ending group of new people at this point in time.
There's so many Samoans. You saw the family tree. There's 87 of them.
The only one not related is Samoa Joe. Strangely enough,
it's weird. Tahiti Fred.
But like that's this one. This tease is it falls a little flat for me at this point in time because like everyone expects it, but do they? We don't really need it right
now. I don't know. I don't know what's going to go on with this at this point. I think if they had turned Owens actual heel while he was wrestling Cody, it'd have been different. But now it's just kind of doing it to do it. And, like, don't get me wrong, I think Owens needs something to freshen him up. And maybe a heel turn is it, but turn him heel on someone, that I don't know. If you turn him heel on Cody, realistically, kind of turn him heel on Randy first. This way, everyone who thinks that
would be surprising.
See, like, everyone who thinks that we're going to get this Cody Randy thing, it turns into Cody Owens because of this. Like, Owens shelves Randy. I think that would be better. I think that would be more interesting.
I will say the wrestling on this card, a bit uninspired. The SmackDown has felt like the B show, even though they have the top champion for a little bit now. I feel like we complain about it almost every single time we cover it.
It's just in general, like it really feels like both shows are doing really good segments as far as not wrestling goes. But then all these pesky matches keep getting in the way.
Like really, it was just like the Roman Cody segment.
Just we didn't really get Solo.
Yeah, no Solo.
No Solo. We didn't really get much. Again, we just didn't get much. There wasn't much for this show whatsoever. I'm hoping that maybe once we kind of get Raw on Netflix, maybe, and I realize it's a few months away, that we'll get a little bit more meat on that bone.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? And
well, you got SmackDown is going to 3 hours. Did I hear that correctly?
I heard they're toying with the idea. I think that's a terrible idea. I really hope they don't do it. I don't even want, once they take Raw off 3 hours, I don't want them to put Raw back to 3 hours.
I think they're going to. What I've heard about Raw on Netflix is that it'll go as long as it needs to. So get ready for 4-hour Raws. But they'll mess with that time. They'll end it in 2.5 hours. They'll end it in 2:15, 3.25. And kind of play that game so you never really know when it's supposed to end. It allows you to kind of surprise people where like, oh, there's 20 minutes left, so we have a 20-minute match ahead of us, and it's over. It's gone. Oh, okay, we're just ending 18 minutes early.
See, I kind of like that. I actually do like that. Also, they have the option to do this now because they don't have to place commercials where they have to place commercials.
And there's not a time bank that they got to fill. And those kind of restrictions. Sometimes they are allowed to go over a little bit, but they don't have that. That's what the beauty of Netflix is for them.
I think this Netflix thing is going to be cool. Again, we'll see.
Will Raw still be live? Do you know that?
Yeah, Raw is still going to be live. They're still going to show it live.
So is this the first thing Netflix has ever done live?
Yeah, no. I think they did something else live. I think I might be wrong, but I think the Tom Brady roast was actually live.
Oh, was it? I can see that.
I think. Again, folks, if you know more than I do, which you probably do, I know wrestling, but let us know. If Netflix has done anything else live, let us know. Comment, talk to us on social media, email, Twitter handle, all that good jazz. It's all down here. Let us know. Because if you want to talk to us about wrestling, we can answer all those questions. Real life or the rest of the world kind of falls by the wayside sometimes. Mainly because all I do is watch wrestling. So moving over to Raw, Monday Night Raw. I kind of like this version of them kind of showing all the stars entering the building. It's a nice little, again, it's that nod to Monday Night Football with.
Yeah. It's giving it the live sports thing. They really have tried to position this as live sports. And this definitely adds to it.
And like them opening the gate and like it just has that feel to it. We get Dom and Liv showing up in what appears to be Eddie's old lowrider. They're just gonna ride that thing until they can, huh? And as Dom and Liv are walking into the arena, Bronson and Reed and Braun Strowman fly past them, literally fly past them into a concession or into a concession stand, a vendor.
Yeah.
And they are still fighting it out, and Liv and Dom and everyone's like, well, at least Liv and Dom didn't die, because those two guys
at least
flying
they didn't
into
get
them,
run over.
That would have killed both of them. They'd be dead. But instead, we get the kickoff to the show with Liv and Dom cutting a promo right in the center of the ring, talking about them, showing footage about them beating down the Terror Twins. And we get Rhea coming out to interrupt them. And Rhea says, She's not going to hit Liv. She's not here for that. They're just here to talk about their match at Bad Blood. We find out that Dom is going to be suspended above the ring in a shark cage.
He's going back behind bars.
Doing hard time.
The very J.J. Dillon of him.
Very J.J. Dillon. This is... I love this gimmick. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Dom, so I love it even more. I love Dom saying, I can't go back. I can't go back. I love the end of it with... So I keep saying this. Liv and Rhea's chemistry working together is awesome.
Yeah.
It is very, very good. I am not necessarily the biggest Liv fan in the ring, but Rhea gets good matches out of her, gets good work out of her. And I will say this for Liv. She got hit with that headbutt, and this headbutt, and there was an elbow a couple weeks ago that she took. And when she took it, man, and I'm not saying she actually did, but she looked like she got rocked. Like, the way she sold it was just, she had that 1,000-mile glare, like she just took a headbutt to the mouth, and like, it looked like she got rocked. So the way she sells that stuff from Rhea sometimes, I'm in. And I can't wait to see this match. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm pumped for it. This is, in my mind, this is where Rhea probably gets the belt back.
I don't know, because the Terrible Twins kind of keep beating up on Liv and Dom.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Again, we're not doing predictions, but I don't know if this is where we finally have Liv keep the title cheaply and cleanly. Like, you don't have Dom help them. Or if this is where we get the title back on Rhea.
I'm going to go with the latter there. I think it's when you get it back on her. They didn't want to take it off her in the first place. I think that she is the champion. This is technically the rubber match, right?
I think so, yeah.
So I think that's where you kind of have to have a definitive winner. And I would put my money on Rhea.
I mean, it should be Rhea, unless there's something we don't know. Again, there could be something. There could be something behind there that we don't know. We immediately get a match between Sami Zayn and Ludwig Kaiser. I'm really liking Ludwig Kaiser. I'm really liking his work. I have it written here. He has this great old school heel mentality about him. Everything he does has a meaning. He has the cocky heel aspect about him. He's not the biggest dude in the world, but he looks like an athlete. Like, he looks like he should be able to do some type of damage. I wouldn't mind... If this was a foregone era, I wouldn't mind seeing Ludwig Kaiser as, like, the European champion to see if he's ready for, like, the IC champion. I don't think he's ever necessarily going to be a world champion, but I could see him dominating that mid-card area for a while. He's a WCW NWA television champion.
Yeah.
Like, he's the type of guy...
Is he going to be the speed champion?
I hope not. But, like, he's the type of guy that I could see them recording 4 matches with him in one day for WCW Saturday Night. And him having to have 4 different matches with 4 different opponents and him doing it. He's a Regal. He's a William Regal. And he gets that nice little throwback of it. From there, we get backstage with the New Day and American Made. American Made. American Made. American Made. American Made. We see Kofi trying to bring some old stuff out for Woods. He's got Francesca, the trombone. He's got the Bootios. He's got the big stuffed Bootio. And Woods kind of shuts it all down.
Uh-huh.
Showtime, what did you think of this segment here?
I like this one. I like the direction they're taking Xavier Woods. And is he getting bigger? I don't know if you noticed that, but I think he's putting on some muscle weight.
he's been bigger, and I think just no one's noticed it because he's kind of always been with Kofi, and he's not a super tall dude.
Sure. But
But
he looks like he's bulking up.
He's a pretty big dude, and he always kind of has been. I think it's one of those things like you don't notice it until you notice it.
Yeah, I noticed it a lot in this one, and I agree. I agree. I agree with Woods. You can't go backwards. Yeah, you got to go forward. So I like what they're trying to do here with Kofi, trying to bring back the fun of it. I would be interested if this doesn't go to a Woods heel turn, but it actually culminates in Big E coming back to manage them. And kind of getting, because I think at this point in time, is Big E ever going to make it back to the ring? Right now, the consensus seems like he won't.
There was something recently that said like there's certain things that need to happen for him to be able to wrestle again.
Yeah.
And truthfully, the amount of time that it's been, should he come back at this point?
But he's still a presence on the outside, and he like, I can see them building to that here. I feel like I haven't heard anybody talk about this being the build to Big E's return now, particularly because they've changed some things. I don't know if that's true or not, and I definitely want Big E to rest up and take care of himself, and not put himself at risk. But I can see that. But it was a good way to kind of start this thing. I just don't love the way that this segment kind of ended with American Made and how the match ended. It felt like it should have gone the other way.
I agree with that. I don't know how I feel about American Made currently. I know you and I spoke about this earlier.
I feel like they missed they missed the window.
I feel like this whole laughing thing they've got with Brutus it's almost like they're trying to make them like a Heart Foundation type thing.
Yeah.
Where Julius is the serious one and Brutus just does the crazy laughter. The problem with that is they're not the Heart Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically. And I mean, I don't want to say that so matter-of-factly, but you're not the Heart Foundation. The Heart Foundation worked just because the Heart Foundation worked. You can't, like, recreate that.
No, we wanted to see this. We saw this coming the whole time. I just think that they kind of wasted Gable's push. Like, he was on fire. And, I honestly think he may have been the better person to dethrone Gunther. And if he had the IC title still when they kind of put this together, that would have been great. I don't know. I don't know why the Wyatt Six went after Chad Gable. I don't know why they're not quite pushing forward and kind of elevating themselves to a certain degree. I know you said you love that they're wearing knee pads now, so that's cool.
Knee pads and boots. Knee pads and boots are big for me. The fact that they're not wearing high socks rolled down with wrestling shoes.
I'll take them just not wearing those beige singlets anymore into what they're doing now. But I'm curious where it goes. I like these guys. I like seeing them in the ring. I just think they kind of missed their window a little bit.
I do like these guys, and I agree with you as well. They did miss the window. I think this is a situation where they didn't pull the trigger on this fast enough. Like, we all knew it was coming, and they should have pulled this trigger.
By missing the window. That's exactly what I mean.
Yeah, like, they should have done this. Realistically, this team should have been put together 3 months ago. It should have been at the beginning of the summer.
Yeah. So they danced around it.
Completely.
They did Otis for too long.
Otis and Tozawa and all of them. We get a really, really good video package for the IC title match. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This video package gave the main event for the night a big match feel, which is quite frankly what we want for this. Because unfortunately, stuff with Jey Uso not winning the title. I know they kept bringing it up throughout the show. They have to keep bringing it up. And to Joe Testator's credit, he's doing what they want from him. But the fact that he has to keep bringing up, well, he's tried 6 times for a singles title and he's lost every single time. The fact is he has tried 6 times for a singles title. And every time we're like, oh, he's finally going to do it. And then he doesn't do it. So this made this feel like, hey, not only is this his chance, this might be his last chance.
Yeah, I just if he loses this, I'm gonna let you know. I just don't know where he goes from here. You know.
Exactly. I agree. Like I wouldn't have known where they would put him. We then get a Judgment Day with Adam Pearce standoff where Liv and Dom are yelling at Pearce, and Pearce yells back at him, says, "You've interfered with every women's title match over the last few months.
I can't go back. Don't put me in the cage.
Don't put me in the cage." And then we get Dom say, "That wasn't me, that was Tom," because our truth is always right.
Always.
And just all around this segment, I actually really, really liked. This was a really good one, and you've got Liv going, as Pearce goes to walk off screen, you hear, "I suppose you just don't care that Rhea headbutted me either." And he comes back on for a second and goes, "No, I actually don't."
Yep.
And then goes back off stage. Like, he's going to get a drink right now. That's what he's doing. He's like, I could use a beverage.
He's been really good in this authority role.
I think Pearce has been really good. I like Nick Aldis in his too. Mm-hmm. I like that they're different, but they're not like, one's not a face and one's not a heel type situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they're just a different character for the general manager, the authority figure. We get some interaction between the Judgment Day and Dragunov right afterwards, which it looks like this is going to lead to JD versus Dragunov, which will probably honestly lead to Dragunov versus Finn once he's done with all the pre stuff, which I'm okay with that. I'm actually really happy with that. I'll take JD and Dragunov and Finn Balor all day long as far as matches go.
I just feel like this is gonna all bury the Judgment Day, like final coffins kind of thing.
Oh, it's coming. This thing's got to get broken up soon, unfortunately. Until all of the original members get back together for a face run.
Sure.
In like a year or two.
So it's Edge.
Maybe. Probably not. He'll still be under contract because he's under contract with AEW until he dies. Which, if he keeps jumping off cages like that, will be a lot sooner than we think.
And then he can come over.
The ghost of Edge. The specter of Edge.
Yeah, wonderful. What a great visual.
Dragon Lee versus Carlito. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I fast forward through this match. This is another grudge that just seems to not die. I wanted to care about Dragon Lee, and I don't, because he's not on television almost ever.
Yeah, the LWO. I started to forget the LWO in general existed.
I like that there's a member of the LWO that's not actually Spanish. That's fun. He's Filipino, just so you know, guys. We have Carlito, who he's Carlito, man. I like him, but this match just didn't do anything for me. And
I wish they could Carlito a good push. Like, I know you can't push everybody. We talk about it. I wish they could push this guy and this guy. There's other people I could push down, but I wish Carlito got a nice little push here, because he is that veteran. He did come in with such moxie, or whatever you want to call it.
High hopes, if you will. We get my boy Karrion Kross messing with the Miz again. Now he's starting to kind of poke that bear a little bit. Reminding him that he was the guy who didn't care what anyone thought of him. That I like the line monster. There's different types of monsters, and Miz saying yes, there are. I absolutely miss heel Miz, but I also think that Miz might be trying to wind down his in-ring career a little bit too. He isn't. I mean, what else does he have to do? He's won the IC title.
Continue to team with R-Truth.
I mean, he can keep doing that occasionally, but I wouldn't be surprised if they really put him on some type of commentary or something like that. Like, they give him a backstage role. He's been there forever.
Need him to hang around long enough for R-Truth to go heel on The Miz. So then we can have R-Truth versus Stardust.
No, it's never going to happen. It might happen.
It might happen.
They're going to do another like Firefly Funhouse match just between those two. And we're going to see Stardust versus Ron the Truth Killings.
Yeah.
We get a Sheamus promo about Pete Dunne, talking about how he got hit with a cricket bat. I kind of like the end line of Sheamus's promo. I don't mean to make this about Ireland versus England, but let's make this about Ireland versus England. Again, it was good, fired up promo. And then we get what is supposed to be The Miz versus Big Bronson Reed. And it never happens. Because Braun Strowman
ruining
comes out.
Everything.
This time, instead of Bronson Reed throwing a human at Braun Strowman jumps over the top of the guardrail and lands on Bronson Reed. And this feud just keeps going and going. Yep. Which I don't dislike this feud.
No, this is good.
This is a good feud, and at the end of this, Bronson Reed needs to be so over that, like, I don't care if you give him a clean win over Braun Strowman at this point, because Strowman kind of hasn't done much. I know he was injured for a while, but Bronson Reed hasn't been injured, and he's doing great work.
And if he can get a couple tsunamis off, they've already built that up on how devastating that move is. He does 2 or 3 of those, and Braun can easily be down and not lose face for kicking out.
I agree. Or if you really need to do some type of blow off with this, where there's some type of gimmick match, you do the tsunami onto something or off of something or something along those lines. You do the tsunami onto the concrete off the ramp or something like that. And
off the steps.
Something along those lines. And then we get the segment that all the Showtimes have been waiting for. Drew McIntyre.
Drew telling everybody he doesn't care what they think.
The biggest babyface in pro wrestling.
I think so. This is good. I mean, I really like what these guys have been doing. They really have built up the danger of the Hell in the Cell over the last 2 promos. I feel like the Hell in the Cell has kind of lost a little bit of its luster over the years. It's just a cage match at this point in time. I'm curious what these guys do in ring in order to deliver on what they've been doing over the last couple weeks.
I think Drew is doing the best work of his career. I think Drew and Punk are printing money for them right now.
Yeah.
I am more interested in Drew versus Punk than I am anything else in the world of wrestling.
I agree. I think it's the best feud out there right now.
And nothing they do is wasted movement. Everything means something. Everything has something to go along with it. I mean, Punk even brought Larry to the ring. They took pictures of it behind the scenes. It's a weird looking dog, by the way. I love dogs. And I love dogs that are so ugly that they're cute, and he definitely falls into one of those categories where he's got the big old underbite. Great. But you hate CM Punk. Not his dog, just CM Punk.
I just don't get it. I don't understand why he's so over and everyone's just not booing him to high hell. I don't get it. He's good. He's a good wrestler. I'm not trying to take away any of his skills. I just don't understand how he's not looked at.
I triggered him on purpose here.
Yeah,
I did that one on purpose.
It wasn't really a trigger. I just don't get it.
We get Adam Pearce announcing a last monster standing match between Reed and Strowman. Again, this is the match that they can blow it off and they can do something. You hit them with 4 or 5 tsunamis.
Yeah.
On like a hard surface, and Strowman can't answer the 10 count.
He took out Seth for a reason. Like, I still haven't seen what that reason is. I know so Seth can go heal up or whatever, but Like they use that moment to put over Bronson Reed in these tsunamis. So it has to now deliver again because you've already legitimized it.
And then immediately after that, we see we see Pete Dunne attacking Sheamus again with the cricket bat and just yelling, "Don't call me Butch." I'm tired of the "Don't call me Butch" part of it, but like this feud, I don't hate. Just the "Don't call me Butch" part. We transition into Damage Control versus the Unholy Union, and even before that, we get Damage Control talking to Bianca and Jade, which, again, I think this is a major build-up for the women's tag team titles. This is more build than those tag titles have gotten in ever.
I agree. I would like to see EO go and fight for the women's championship rather than the tag titles, but here we are.
I would rather see EO versus Bianca just one-on-one.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Like even if it's not for a
title. Didn't that just happen?
Yeah, and I would take a real feud off of it.
Yeah.
Last week their match was amazing.
Yeah, that's last week.
It was so amazing, and I would take that match over and over and over again. We're not getting that match over and over and over again. Instead, we're going to get Damage Control versus Jade and Bianca.
But if they build this correctly, Damage Control could believably take the titles back from.
I think so. And here's my real question: does this tag title match go on Bad Blood?
It's going to be the Raw before.
I mean, Jade and Bianca are the only tag team champions that have been defending on the pay-per-views. I'm sorry, the PLEs.
The PLEs.
Don't sue me. I don't have anything that you want anyway. We then get the American-made New Day match. New Day loses because Woods loses his focus this time. Chad Gable comes up onto the apron. Woods loses it and attacks him, and American Made takes advantage of it. They take the win. I feel like some of this stuff, and maybe some of this stuff is just they're so focused on the big stuff. Some of the mid-card stuff, some of the lower stuff, it feels very lukewarm. New Day in general feels lukewarm right now. American Made feels lukewarm. I've been saying lukewarm the last couple of shows about a couple things, but just in general, like nothing is setting me on fire other than the main storylines. And I realize that those storylines are supposed to set me on fire, but like I want something underneath of it to sink my teeth into too.
I just think they've been waiting too long to kind of pull the rug out from under us. Like, if you're gonna have Woods turn heel, then just turn him heel. Let's get over with it. If you're gonna line Chad with the Creeds, just do it. Why did we wait so long to get there? Why did the Otis stuff go on for so long? I just feel like there's some of these storylines that just kind of go on forever because they've been doing this one with the Woods Kofi thing for months, ever since Carrion came back.
Yeah, since what? Right after Mania, since the draft, literally since the draft, and it's just like I'm not in for it. We see Woods losing his crap on Rey Mysterio in the back. We get another Wyatt VHS with a QR code, which I actually have looked it up. I'm going to go over more of that stuff when I have a second and see if I can deduce what it's all about. It's Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, it's Alexa Bliss.
It's Alexa Bliss. And we get a Damian Priest promo vignette calling out Finn Balor, tell him how Balor's been jealous the whole time. Again, it was a good vignette. It's just, this was all kind of a little bit of filler. for the main event, we get main event Jey Uso, ? Versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship.
Yep. And yeet.
Yeet, yeet, yeet. I'll do it. Pat McAfee made me a fan.
I mean, that's why he's so over is he I'm there's a lot to unpack here. I'm happy that the IC title has changed hands at Raw. I feel like for a while there, like every time they had these matches, you were never worried about the champion losing. Now that they did this, it allows a little bit of that excitement, that dynamic of like, oh shit, anything can happen. I think that Braun didn't have the title long enough. I was okay with Jimmy not having it, but if Jimmy lost this match,
Jay.
I just have. Sorry, Jay, you caught me earlier with Jimmy. Jay, he like having him lose this match. I just don't understand where they go with him at that point in time. So I feel like this is the right move to protect Jay. I'm convinced that Braun's going to get it back relatively soon. I know you're not, Steven, but this is a great match, and I'm happy for Jay to get his title.
This was a definite feel-good moment. You look at the crowd afterwards; they're in on this. Jey Uso is so over right now.
He's so over. He's Joe
Jey
Hendry
Uso
over.
might be the only man that's more over in wrestling than Joe Hendry.
Not more, because I think they both hit the ceiling.
Different.
How high you can go.
Different type of over.
Yeah.
And this was a good match. I will say this. We have been a little bit critical of Jey Uso matches in general. And I think we're not alone on this one. This was probably the best Jey Uso match I've seen in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So Braun Breaker was able to pull out the best out of Jey Uso, which says a lot about Braun Breaker as well. I don't think anyone left this match worse off, which is what you want out of this. Braun didn't lose the title and is worse off today than he was yesterday.
And Jay got a clean pin.
Everything about this was what you wanted. I've heard rumors, pray tell, that Braun Breaker might go full face. I don't know if that's a thing. If it is, him losing cleanly is actually probably better for him because he has to reevaluate what he's doing. Jey Uso getting the IC title, I think this is everything he needed. We were getting to the point where we were questioning why we were calling him main event Jey Uso when he kept losing the main event.
I feel like Braun always has to lose to somebody first before he can beat them. It seems to be his MO.
I could see this going a few matches too. This might be one of those things where this gets extended even as far as like Royal Rumble. But we'll see. Again, I was really happy with this ending. I was really happy with this match. I was kind of happy that we were both wrong. Both of us said last week that Uso was going to lose this match.
Yeah, because I was just shocked that Braun lost it already.
Exactly. I thought he didn't hold it that long. It was like 51 days they said or something like that. But again, the match itself was good. The storyline, the build up, the vignettes, everything they did gave it the big match feel. I got a little nervous for Jay when he was walking out for his entrance because he almost tripped down the stairs. I got a little nervous there. You saw him slip up a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, don't do that, man. This is your moment." But all around, that was Raw. That's the week in TNA. That's the week in WWE. Showtime. I appreciate you doing this with our new show format and everything. For the Legion out there, thank you for following us. As always, there are other things coming out. We have some big guests coming on the show. Again, we have a 3-time world champion coming on the show. This could be a thing too. He does it this way sometimes too. 3-time world champion is going to come on the show. We will be having that interview as soon as, like I said, we are not going to announce that on the show. We are going to announce it on our social media. So please follow our TikTok, follow our Instagram, join our Facebook group. Follow. If you're listening to us and you are not subscribed to us, please subscribe. It doesn't cost anything more, and it helps the show more than anything. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, please help us, comment, all that stuff. It helps all the algorithms that I don't understand. Another interview we have going on, we have a major social media influencer / pro wrestling friend of ours coming on, and we will be announcing more of that once we are allowed to announce what we are allowed to announce with him. I just don't want to give up any information that he doesn't want us to give up right now. But we will be having him on shortly as well. Showtime, as always, it's been a hell of a week with you.
It sure has. Thank you all for listening. Come back, spend some more time with us next week. We're just trying to give you guys the content that you want. So any feedback you guys want to send our way, anything else, we're all ears. So thank you for being here with us.
And we should be doing another next week. We will be having our preview episode for Bad Blood, I believe. Ooh, which of course Showtime will be hosting that one. You don't have to listen to me the whole time.
Get ready, Legionnaires.
And you'll get all three of us together for that one, because that's how this works now.
It sure is.
All right, Showtime, anything to add to the end of this?
No, love you guys.
All right, folks. And as always, Legion, tuck your chin when you bump.